coming up? Good.
Thank God for Gene.
I would have lost that bet. I thought we'd had 5 people. I don't mind being wrong. Beth, can you hear me with the mask? Can you hear me with the mask? You can? But I look silly.
Put on your mask.
All right.
You should be laughing. Today was so funny. And my principal's like, okay, let's take a picture. Everyone smile.
Folks, Mike's alive. Mike's alive.
Here we go.
Just tell me when, Jim. That's good? Okay. Ready? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we please stand for a pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, this is a public meeting of the Bayonne Board of Education. It is 5:04 p.m., the 28th day of April. We're convening in the Alexander O'Connor Auditorium. The presiding officer is Maria Volato, President of the Bayonne Board of Education. Those in attendance include Mr. John J. Neese, our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Gary Maida, Board Secretary, Mr. Daniel Castles, our School Business Administrator, Mr. Thomas Fagoo, Jr., our Assistant School Business Administrator, and Mr. Philip Lamparello. Board Council is virtual. The meeting is open to the public. I will take a roll call. Trustee Alonso is virtual. Trustee Broderick is virtual. Trustee Burke is virtual. Trustee Casillas is here. Trustee Egan is here. Trustee Finnerty is here. Trustee Wilbeck is virtual. Vice President Munoz is here. And President Volato is here. Mr. President.
For the record, adequate written advance notice of at least 48 hours giving the time, date, and location of this meeting with the agenda was provided as follows. Notice was promptly posted in City Hall at 630 Avenue C on the bulletin board reserved for such announcements of the Board of Education. The Board Secretary sent such notice to the Jersey Journal and Community News. Notice was filed with the Municipal Clerk of the City of Bayonne, Ms. Melinda Medina.
At this time, we'd like to take a short moment of silence. Mr. Dominic Mack, one of our teachers, recently passed away after a long illness. And if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. At this time, I'll go to our agenda. We'll start with our approval of minutes and our acceptance of communications. Everything is on our bulletin board and was posted to our website. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
On a motion and a second to accept the minutes and communications, Trustee Alonso. Tom, is that a
Yes.
is a yes? Okay. Trustee Broderick?
Trustee Broderick, yes.
Trustee Burke?
Trustee Burke says yes.
Okay. Trustee Casillas? Yes. Is here. Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty?
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Trustee Wilbeck says yes.
Okay. Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
And President Velarde?
Yes.
Obviously, it's no secret to our audience out there in TV land. We're under conditions, and there is a time delay, a short time delay from our virtual members, so please bear with us. Next up on our consent agenda is curriculum, instruction, and policy resolutions A1 through A17. Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion from the president and a second from the vice president. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso,
Trustee Alonso says yes.
Trustee Broderick,
Trustee Broderick needs the question repeated.
it is the curriculum resolutions, resolutions A1 through A17. We're voting on the whole curriculum agenda. So is it a yes or a no?
Trustee Broderick, yes.
Okay. Trustee Burke,
Yes.
Trustee Burke, yes.
Trustee Casali,
Yes.
Trustee Egan,
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty,
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck.
Trustee Wilbeck, yes.
Okay, Vice President Munoz,
Yes.
President Velarde.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is our finance agenda, resolutions B1 through B17. The only additions, if you saw your email today, the last 5 were award of bids for the boiler bids that we held last week. And we were able to, Dan was able to check all that information with our architects, and everything's been approved. So those are the only additions. You received them today. So do I have a motion
So
on
moved.
finance from President Velardo, and I have a second
I'll second.
from Vice President Munoz. So a motion from President Velardo and a second from Vice President Munoz. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso,
Trustee Alonso, yes.
Trustee Broderick. I don't know if
Trustee Broderick, yes.
it's a mask on my ear. Trustee Burke. Burke.
Trustee Burke, yes.
Trustee Casali?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty?
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Say again.
Wilbeck?
Trustee Wilbeck, yes.
Vice President?
Yes.
And Ms. President?
Yes.
Okay. Next up is our personnel agenda. I'd like to point out that Resolution 9 and 22 were tabled. These were for staff sessions that obviously are being postponed because of the conditions. So Resolution C1 to C31. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Motion by President Velardo, a second,
I'll second that motion.
and a second from Vice President Munoz. So we have a motion and second on personnel items. Trustee Alonso.
Trustee Alonso, yes.
Trustee Broderick.
Okay.
Trustee Broderick? Yeah.
So Trustee Broderick, just to repeat, you're questioning which resolution?
Personnel agenda.
Which resolution? Trustee Broderick? Yes, which resolution are you questioning?
What resolution?
So I'll repeat the question. I'll repeat the question. C7, will there be an opportunity for more money to be raised so other children can go as well? Correct, Mr. Broderick? Mr. Broderick, is that correct, the way I phrased it? No, I'm repeating your question, Mr. Broderick. C? Yeah, one more time.
Like I noticed the one trip, B7 was $3,000.
Correct.
The other trip, I think, was $700. You know, we're a public school. Not everyone can afford that kind of money, but it's very interesting. There's some way we can make not a donation, but something that...
Excuse us for the time delay. There's a question on Resolution C7, which is approval of a field
Okay,
trip for the
I'll
Bayonne
repeat it.
High School Travel Club for next year.
So C7, the question is, there's one trip for $3,000 and another one for $700. Trustee Broderick is asking, not everyone can afford that. Will there be an opportunity to have money raised to offset the cost of that for other students?
So there was a discrepancy in prices from one trip to the other. Trustee Broderick was asking if additional resources could be raised for the students, and the superintendent's answer to that was yes. So we're back. Is that a yes then for the
They could
vote?
do more fundraising.
Yes. But Trustee Broderick, do we have a yes now to the vote?
Okay, so the Secretary Maida said that, repeated what Superintendent Neese said, saying, yes, there will be other funds available for other students.
To raise.
To raise, fundraiser.
Do fundraising.
Excuse me? Can we put that in the resolution then?
No.
Because it says it'll be funded by parents on the resolution. It does not indicate that it could also be funded by fundraising.
I'd rather just table the resolution.
No, the resolution not tabled.
No, I mean,
Parents do pay for that trip. They do sell Krispy Kremes, or they do have in-school sales such as that in order to help set off the cost of the price of the trip, but it's only if my child is going, then my child raises $150 selling Krispy Kremes, then that's the amount that's taken off the $3,000 that I have to pay as my child. That's how the fundraising, it's not exclusive, it's not all fundraising, it is just parents pay, and that is how it's deducted. Ms. Cassius, you had a question?
These are the trips that they always, the parents pay like on a monthly
A monthly
budget?
basis, yes.
Like on a monthly basis, they'll pay towards it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
plus, I want to add, the advisors of that club do a really good job in fundraising. I see them very active in social media and the school bulletin boards. So there's a lot of fundraising opportunities for these two trips, absolutely.
I would just like to see it added to the resolution that it
I
could
can't
also
add
be,
it to the
the
resolution.
fee could be raised
Let's
by
just take the vote,
fundraising.
if they want it out, we just voted
paid
on,
by parents.
we voted
Yeah.
on,
Because
just
ultimately,
voted
they're
on
responsible,
non-consent.
but
but
there's
we didn't
fundraising
vote.
opportunities to pay down the cost of the trip.
So,
I've seen resolutions where it said fundraising.
no, do not table it, we just,
Okay, I'm going to move Resolution C7 to non-consent so I can move the meeting along. Bear with me one second. Okay, so I have resolutions from the consent on personnel, Resolution C1 to C31. Number 9 is tabled, number 22 is tabled, and C7 is being taken out and moved to non-consent. I'd like to retake the vote. Do I still have the motion in second?
motion move?
Okay,
Yes.
Trustee Alonso will re-vote on that. Trustee Alonso.
Trustee Alonso, you okay with that? Trustee Alonso, the question is moving C7 to non-consent.
Yes.
And now we're going to vote on the consent, on the personnel consent agenda.
Trustee Alonso? Take the mic.
You want me to take the mic? Me?
Me?
Gary?
What mic?
He's on the mic.
I have a mic.
Correct. C7 is moving to non-consent. Okay. So C7 is moved to non-consent. We're voting on a remainder of C resolutions.
Correct.
Trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick said in his opinion, they don't need to move it to non-consent.
Are we voting?
But
We are voting?
Trustee Finnerty has a problem with it the way it's written.
Trustee Finnerty requests to move to non-consent. So we're just voting on all of C except for C7.
It's being moved to non-consent.
C7 is moved to non-consent. Trustee Alonso? Trustee Alonso votes yes.
Thank you. Trustee Broderick.
We're voting on the rest of the C1, 2, 8,
Minus C7.
I'll vote yes on that.
Trustee Broderick votes yes.
Thank you. Trustee Burke.
Trustee Burke votes yes.
Trustee Kasai.
Yes.
Trustee Egan.
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty.
As long as you can put in a fundraising clause, I vote yes.
C7 has
Trustee.
been moved to non-consent.
C7 is going to be moved to non-consent.
Oh,
We'll
I'm
vote on
sorry.
that separately. This is
I
just the...
vote yes.
Thank you. Trustee Wilbeck.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Say Wilbeck, yes.
Trustee Wilbeck, yes.
Thank you. Vice President?
Yes.
President.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we'll move to our non-consent agenda. We're going to start with Resolution D1, which is our budget. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent and Mr. Castle, our business administrator. I'm going to get out of the way. I will see you after the presentation.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. For those of you watching virtually, my name is Dan Castles. I'm the school business administrator here for the Bayonne Board of Education. Before we jump into the budget presentation, I just wanted to mention a couple things. First off, for the people here, I apologize for presenting sitting down, but I want to make sure everyone hears what I have to say. Also, I want to mention this budget was built on budget figures.
Just have to speak up. They can't hear.
Okay. Is this better to everyone at home? If you give me a wave.
Trustee Alonso, Trustee
Okay.
Broderick, is that clearer? Yeah, Ms. Cassis.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to mention was that this budget was built on the state aid figures given to the Bayonne Board of Ed as of February, the end of February, before the pandemic hit. So as per the DOE, we're moving forward with this budget, but if that were to change state aid figures, obviously this board would get the chance to revisit this budget, amend it in any way needed, but as of right now, it is the DOE guidance that we move forward with the state aid figures that we were given. So.
I'm sorry, Mr. Castle, as of right now, what did you say?
So I said, as of right now, the DOE is giving us guidance to move forward with the state aid figures we were given as of February. There is no revision to that. Obviously, this pandemic has had an economic impact on the state, So that could change moving forward. If that does change, we will have the opportunity to revise the budget moving forward. But as of now, our state aid figures are staying the same, so this is the budget that we will be moving forward with, and you will be voting on. Okay?
Sorry? Tell Tom that we believe the chat is having an issue with listening, with hearing.
What's the issue?
She's saying she
Oh,
can't
chat,
hear.
Okay. So we're having
Trustee-
some technical
Trustee Burke,
issues.
can you hear it all? Trustee Burke? Trustee Burke, is that better?
Can you hear me now, Trustee Burke?
Excuse me, on my closed captions, she said that you're very muffled. On my closed caption, I put my closed caption on, she said you're very muffled, she can't understand what you're saying.
Is this better if I take off the mask? Can you hear me much more clearly? All right, I'll give that a go and see if that's more clear. So I'll continue with the presentation. If there's some issues, just let me know. So before we get into it, just one last thing. I wanted to thank a lot of people because this was a collaborative effort. First, the board trustees. Through the Finance Committee and the board as a whole, we had several meetings. We discussed the budget. We didn't always agree, but I think that's very healthy, and it created the best budget possible for our students. Central Office, Mr. Neese, Mr. Fagu, Mr. Kopaz, Dr. Degnan, they all had a massive undertaking to assist with the budget process. Our principals, directors, teachers, they all had their part in putting this together. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, is the business office staff. They have gone above and beyond, especially during some of these times where it's a little more difficult to do everything necessary to put this together. So I just wanted to give them a brief mention. Okay, so our budget is built off of several different funds. Yeah, sure.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. There you go. Now talk.
Is this better for everyone?
Lisa said yes.
Okay. Buffering? Okay. All right, maybe I'll move this back. All right, I'm just going to keep on going. All right, so our budget is built on several funds. The two main funds we'll be talking about today are our operating budget and the special revenue fund. The operating budget is all the day-to-day operations. That's instructional costs, teacher salaries, facilities, utilities, pretty much everything you see on a day-to-day basis is run through the operating budget. The special revenue funds are our grants. That's the preschool, that's operated through a grant. The Title I IDEA, we have a school-based program. Those are all part of our special revenue funds. Those are the two funds we'll be discussing today. There's also the enterprise fund, which is really treated like a business, if you think of it like that. That's food services, or the community education program. And then there's also Fund 90, which is payroll agency and ties back into payroll. We won't be discussing those, but I just wanted to mention them real quickly. All right, so we're going to jump into it. So as our operating budget, here are our revenues, what we're taking in. So for this school year, for the 2021 school year as compared to the 1920 school year, based on the state aid figures and this proposed budget, we're going to see roughly a $10 million increase in the total operating budget. A majority of that, $7 million of that, is from an increase in state aid. The other big piece is from what's called budgeted fund balance, which is funds, excess funds remaining from the 18-19 school year, and that's at $2 million. Then the other piece is the nearly $700,000 from a 1% tax increase. So what we did here is we used the increase in budgeted fund balance that we've seen to offset some of the tax burden to the taxpayer, but also use it for some capital outlay projects, which are two of the eligible costs we could use to use that excess surplus. So this graph just depicts where we're going. One thing I just want to briefly mention here is that we see that we're starting to slowly drift into more dependency on state aid than the local taxpayer. I will get into that and what the local fair share means throughout the next few slides, but a brief description is, as per S2, which is the law that changed state aid, the two major factors are the adequacy budget, or what the state thinks you need to function as a school district, and a portion of that is called local fair share, the total amount that the state deems necessary for your local taxpayer to contribute towards your school district. As of right now, we are at, if we approve the 1%, we would be at 69 million. We would still be just shy of $10 million short of our local fair share. So that impacts how we receive state aid and where this balance goes. So it's something to keep an eye on moving forward. This is a brief snapshot of the last 10 years of our local tax levy. As you can see, since 11-12, we've increased our tax levy by about $12.5 million, which is pretty substantial, but you see in there that the percentages have been kind of all over the place a little bit. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And then our state aid over the last 10 years. And this is really where you get to see where that local fair share and the adequacy budget comes into play. So over the last 10 years, while our local tax levy has increased $12.5 million, our state aid has increased $21.5 million. And it has really swung the balance of the district from dependent on local tax levy versus dependent on state aid. And it's something to really keep an eye on. All right, so now we'll move to the other side, the expenses. Where are our dollars going? So in comparison to 1920, you can see that a large chunk of our dollars would be going to salaries, which is a good thing. People teach people. The more people that we have here, the better, as long as we do that in a fiscally responsible way. Another big part of this is purchase property services. And that is really for facilities, upgrades, repairs, something that, in my opinion and in the Finance Committee's opinion, this district is in need of. So here's a breakout of where our expenses go. So 78% of them go to salaries and benefits. It's a slight downtick from prior years, but that's really because the budget as a whole expanded. The others are broken into smaller sections, and those are purchase professional, architect, attorney, professional development. That's that type of stuff. Purchase property is utilities, upgrades to facilities. Purchase services are tuition payments, transportation, those type of things. And then obviously there's supplies, and others are usually like dues and fees. So here is our priority list, and most of the items we were able to put into this budget. Here are some of the details of what's going in. So there's an increase in special education teachers, addition of a CST team, some guidance counselors, regular education teachers, some vice principals, and then some capital projects. The two main things that this budget prioritizes is increasing personnel where necessary and addressing some of the capital project issues that have been ongoing. Try to not put a Band-Aid on it, but actually fix the problem. And with saying all that, it kind of seems like maybe we're just going on this massive spending spree, but that's not the case at all. So this is our budgeted cost per pupil compared to some of our peers in Hudson County, and as you can see, we would still be one of the lowest. And even more specifically, if we look at cost per pupil for salaries, in instructional salaries, we're still the lowest. In admin salaries, we would be the second lowest. And in maintenance, we would also be the second lowest. So we're still towards the bottom of the barrel as far as cost per pupil goes. That means that we're running efficiently, but we still need to address some of those areas that we need to fill gaps in. So now we'll move on to the special revenue fund. The key to the special revenue fund is we got an increase to our preschool grant, so our preschool grant will be fully funded by a state grant. While it's part of state aid, it can be fully funded in that preschool grant. The total amount for the 2021 year is $12 million. There's some carryover funds in there. Also, we have ESEA, which is Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. We have $3 million for those programs. And IDEA, which is for our special education students, we have $1.9 million roughly there. One brief note I wanted to mention is that as part of the CARES Act that has come out to address this pandemic, there are going to be funds available in Title I and IDEA to address some of the students that may need some supplemental education to catch up if they have fallen behind. We don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but we know that there's dollars out there, and we will be applying for those. So I really want to thank everyone. I know these aren't ideal circumstances, and budget isn't the top priority on everyone's mind, but I wanted to thank everybody for bearing with me, and specifically Mr. Fagu for all his work on the budget, but also for dealing with all these technical issues, and everyone on the board for working with me and with our team to get this done. So thank you to everyone. Sure.
It said 3 teachers on there? Is that, so that's, I don't know, maybe I'm a little confused.
Sure, it's at 3 regular ed teachers.
So we're only looking to expand 3 teachers in the district?
So in this budget
Yeah.
currently, it's actually several teachers. There's special education teachers that are
Yes.
separate than regular ed teachers, and there's also a CST team
Yeah,
in this budget. But as far as this budget goes,
okay.
this is trying to balance not only just our personnel needs, which this budget doesn't fix everything,
Yeah, yeah.
but also our facility needs. So we're trying to address both issues at the same time. But certainly, the staffing increase is more than just 3 people. There's 3 regular ed,
Yeah.
but I wanted to decipher who.
So it's like, almost like 12 or 15 in total?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Okay. Because I'm just, the district continues to grow. I mean, I just saw that more people transferred into the district 2 weeks ago, which is interesting to see how that's developing, so just
Sure.
trying to figure out how, you know.
Yeah, and it's going to be a continual process.
Okay.
This will be from a year to year. We're still roughly $31 million underfunded as per our adequacy budget, and that will expand as the district grows. So that's something we should address with state aid and tax levy and those type of things that I spoke about.
We're
But
still short. I know in the high school, I think it's like 21
Sure.
members, and then in the elementary school, I think it was somewhere like 15 to 20 going from the years past, so.
Yeah.
And then with pre-K expanding and everything, so. Okay.
Absolutely.
But-
Thank you.
You know what, I want to add something to that. Gene, that's a good question in reference to personnel. Right. I just want to address that because I'm sure that question will come up. In reference to personnel, as Dan began his presentation, he discussed the need to do the budget. However, these are uncertain times. With that in mind, we're not going to add any staff until we get further into the summer and we find out where we are financially in terms of our state aid and where we are in the pandemic, and to even go further. So the budget has those personnel decisions in there. There's a lot of things in the budget, correct? However, it would be, and Dan and I have spoken about this, and I've spoken with the president of the board and the vice president, it would be fiscally irresponsible to move on this immediately because our fiscal year does not end. It's been extended, and I'm sure we all know this, at the end of August, so September 1st. I'm correct on that? Correct? Yes. So that's when, and again, not an ideal situation, and it's going to be difficult, but that's what we have to do. I would never want to hire individuals and increase and put programs in, and we couldn't sustain that. That's very important to us. So I just want to clarify that with everyone. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let me read this. Whereas the Bayonne Board of Education tentative budget for the school year 2020-21 includes sufficient funds to provide curriculum and instruction, which will enable all students to achieve Common Core state standards and the New Jersey Core Curriculum content standards in compliance with NJSA 18A and NJAC Title VI and 6A. Whereas the district is going to increase the tax levy by 1% for a total of $69,754,376. Now therefore be it resolved that the Bayonne Board of Education adopts the following budget for the 2020-21 school year. Be it further resolved that the superintendent and the school business administrator are hereby directed to establish the budget for the school year and submit the said budget to the interim executive county superintendent, provide the certificate and report of school taxes, the A4F, for the 2020-21 school year to the City of Bayonne clerk and the Hudson County Board of Taxation by May 14th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Dr. Maida, 1 second. I do have a comment I have to read out from Trustee Alonso regarding fair share. But we pay 93% of our fair share. 10 million sounds worse than it is compared to other cities. 93% is great because the state funding is only at 60% of what it should be. That's from Trustee Alonso.
Okay, that's a statement. So we have a motion and a second on resolution D1.
Dr. Mayor, is it time for me to comment, or do I have to wait before I vote?
Right before you vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Alonso, yes or no?
Trustee Alonso said no.
Okay, that's a no from Trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick?
Hold on, Mr. Broderick, let me repeat that. Hold on. Mr. Broderick would like to thank Superintendent Neese, Mr. Castles, the BA office, and everyone who's done this during difficult times. Go ahead, Mr. Broderick.
That being said, the hard work has been creating the cooperation. My problem is that when we voted on this number back in March, before this really got to be such a difficulty that we're seeing it's going to be.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Trustee Broderick, hold on 1 second. The problem is the number we voted on, as per Trustee Broderick, back in March, times are a lot different than they are now. Go ahead, Mr. Broderick.
That said, that driving around town and seeing restaurants closed, stores closed, salons closed, and it, a majority of people out of work.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Broderick. Hold on, Mr. Broderick. That being said, driving around town, seeing restaurants closed, beauty parlors closed, a lot of people out of work. Proceed, Trustee Broderick.
I know, penetration, it's rightfully so, that we have to do our fair share, but this time, I think I need to be our fair share for the citizens of Bayonne.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Broderick. The BA said regarding fair share, that we have to do our fair share, and Trustee Broderick feels in order to do his fair share to the citizens of Bayonne. Proceed, Trustee Broderick.
And that being said, raising taxes 1 penny would be, in this particular year, and not knowing, I mean, I have a big what if. What if the state says we're not gonna get any of that $7 million? What if we're not even gonna get the money that we got last year? I mean, these are all possibilities. Atlantic City never opens up this summer. Shore doesn't open up this summer.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Trustee.
We could hear him,
You can hear him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you can, because I can't.
Oh, you can't hear him? Put your volume on.
He told us to turn it down.
Go ahead, trustee.
Let's keep it the way we're doing.
Mr. Williams, it's the echo. If we all turn it up, it'll start to bounce off each other.
Okay. Trustee Broderick, under situations, would have to say no unless we could do something with the $690,000 from the city. Trustee Broderick votes no.
Okay, that's a no from trustee Broderick. Trustee Burke?
This is to pass the budget, correct? Trustee Burke votes yes.
Trustee Cassius?
Yes.
Trustee Egan? Trustee Finnerty?
May I comment now?
Sure.
I received the budget, the itemized budget about 10 days ago. I reviewed it, and I made some notes regarding it. But what really impacted me the most was listening to the governor yesterday. And I have to tell you, I still think about where this Board of Education was 5 years ago. We were in great financial stress, and for sure, I do not want to revisit those times. Governor Murphy said yesterday, I quote, "The impact on the state budget is significant. There is no other way to put it. It is still too early to tell the impact on specifics like school aid. District federal cash to the state, let me emphasize that we are getting crushed right now. There is no other way to put it." That was just yesterday. I am telling you, I am fearful about our financial future in the field of education. In addition, even before Governor Murphy's quote yesterday, I reviewed the budget. Our superintendent said there'd be no new personnel added. I would like to know, what is a chief of staff? To me, as an English teacher, staff, personnel, it's the same thing. As Shakespeare said, a rose will smell as sweet if it was called another name. I don't have the quote exact. We have on staff a very, very efficient assistant superintendent of personnel. What is the difference between personnel and assistant superintendent of personnel? What is the difference between that and a chief of staff? And we're going to hire a chief of staff for $171,000. Well, to me, if you take the $171,000 and you divide it, you could perhaps add 2.5 more teachers, Mr. Woods, to our teaching force. In addition, I had been against merit bonuses. I have been. And it's not our superintendent's fault that we have a crisis. We have a pandemic. But how, in God's name, can those merit bonuses be awarded if he cannot achieve the goals? And that's an additional $30,000. Another thing that really got to me was moving expenses. It's not huge. No, it is not a huge number in the budget, but still, we open up a can of worms. Moving expenses for teachers when teacher moves. I really don't know how one does that. But this budget, I'm so thrilled that we're going to get the long-awaited additional child study team. Are you going to shut me off? Oh. We're going to get the long-awaited additional child study team. And we're going to get more guidance counselors. We're going to get 3 additional teachers. I am thrilled by that, but no, I am not thrilled by the chief of staff. I'd like to know an explanation. I didn't see a job description, but sometimes I do miss things. But chief of staff and assistant superintendent of personnel are one and the same the way I look at things. There is no way, given my past experience and the financial crises that we have gone through, that I think that this budget should be passed. No way. So, vote is no.
And that's a no from trustee Finity.
Excuse me, our business administrator wants to respond to the chief of staff?
Trustee Finity, so what that is, that chief of staff, it's just, the title is wrong, and I'm with you, but that's a placeholder for Dr. Degden, who's currently funded out of the Title I budget, but since our budget for Title I was told to be budgeted at 80%, we couldn't guarantee that his whole salary could fit in there along with the other programs. So that is a placeholder for Dr. Degnan in our operating budget as opposed to in our special revenue fund. I just wanted to, I'm with you with the name now.
Thank you,
I didn't get that explanation at all.
thank you.
She didn't hear the explanation. maybe.
We're not hiring anybody.
All right, trustee Wilbeck?
Trustee Wilbeck? Trustee Wilbeck, no.
Vice President?
Yeah, first off, I'd like to thank the business team, Dan and Tom and Laura and Eric. They really did a really good job with this. I want to point out, I think this is a fair and balanced budget. We're adding 6 additional teachers, child study team, long awaited, thank God, guidance counselors. It adds more teachers, support staff, it addresses administrative needs, and the many improvements that we need to our infrastructure, which I think is amazing. I'd like to point out to the public and to the board trustees that in the past couple of years, our tax levy went from a 5.62 increase to a 2.87, down to a 1.1, and now we're down to a 1. This board is doing its job. It's continuing to keep on cutting the tax levy while doing more with less. So I vote yes.
And President Velarde?
I vote yes.
Okay, resolution passes. If I can move on to resolution D2. Whereas current contracts named attached custodians are to expire, whereas the superintendent of schools, Mr. Neese, has recommended new contracts be tenured. The attached named custodians are hereby appointed from a period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. As per the contracts, be it further resolved that the President and the Secretary and this Board of Ed are hereby authorized to execute the above-mentioned contracts on behalf of this Board and the Board Council as to form. Do I have a motion?
Move.
And a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and second on that resolution. Trustee Alonso, D2.
Trustee Alonso abstains.
Trustee Broderick?
Trustee Broderick, we're talking about B2. Correct, B2. Repeat that, Mr. Broderick? This is resolution B2.
D2?
I'm sorry, D2, D is in David, D2.
Approval of appointment custodian.
Correct, custodians.
And I vote yes to that.
Trustee Broderick votes yes.
And that's a yes. I think I heard that. Okay.
Burke, yes.
Trustee Burke?
Trustee Burke, yes.
Trustee Cassius?
I abstain.
Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty?
I abstain.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Trustee Wilbeck, yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Velarde?
Yes.
Okay, resolutions D3. Whereas the Board of Education reaffirms its goals to provide an open and transparent independent board Be it resolved that we, the Board of Education, move the annual school board election back to April, starting 2020. Be it further resolved that the board instructs the business administrator and the board secretary to notify the county superintendent of schools and the county clerk of any governing body that need be changed. Is there a motion?
Was this the trustee that was?
Is there a motion?
Is there a motion? That's what he's
Is there a
asking.
motion for the resolution?
Is there a motion for D3?
Trustee Alonso, it's your resolution. Is there a motion?
Trustee Alonso, Wilbeck,
Not hearing any? We're done. Okay, I'd like to get back to Resolution C7. This was a field trip, November 5th to the 13th, 2020, Bayonne High School Travel Club. We moved it from our personnel agenda. Resolution C7, we'll take it individually. Do I have a motion, Mr. President?
So moved.
Do I have a second, Mr. Vice President?
I will second.
Thank you. So I have a motion and a second on C7, which is now on non-consent. Trustee Alonso?
Trustee Alonso, C7.
I think I want to point out, it looks like trustee Alonso hung up. I don't think he's on. No, he's no longer on the call. We're voting for C7.
Well, did we lose him?
Did we lose trustee Alonso?
Trustee Alonso, are you still with us?
No, he's not. He's not on there. Yes.
You seem to have lost trustee Alonso. Can we reach him on a phone?
No, he left the meeting. That's it.
Folks, just tell me what you want me to do.
Let's vote.
Okay. So we have Resolution C7, moved by the President, seconded by the Vice President. Trustee Alonso seems to no longer be with us. I won't take his vote. Trustee Broderick?
Yeah, I'll vote yes.
Trustee Broderick, yes.
Trustee Burke?
Trustee Burke, yes.
Trustee Casaya?
Yes.
Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finnerty?
Yes.
Trustee Wilbeck?
Wilbeck, yes.
Trustee Wilbeck, yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Velarde?
Yes.
Trustees, that is all I have for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? Let me just check real quick if anyone came into emails with a question. Mr. Fagu, has anybody phoned in with a question that we know of? Okay, so we have no phone-in questions, and I have no emailed questions, which was as per our advertisement.
I will make the motion.
So on
to
that,
adjourn.
we have Vice President Munoz with a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Oh, I'm sorry, Gene. Go ahead.
So I wrote this down, I sent this to Garrett, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to be here, but, one, I just want to say thank you to Superintendent Neese, for continuing to keep our district strong in these tough times. We appreciate your leadership, and we appreciate your great educators. One of the things that I want to thank you for specifically, am I not loud enough? Can you project further? I've had to keep my teacher voice as well. So, I'm just saying, I want to thank Superintendent Neese for continuing to keep our district strong in these tough times. We appreciate your leadership, and we appreciate your faith in our educators. Especially, we'd like to thank you for retaining our first-year teacher,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a motion to adjourn by Vice President Munoz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Velarde. On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso, I think we still lost him? Okay. Trustee Broderick? Trustee Burke?
Trustee Broderick to adjourn.
Trustee Burke? Trustee Cassius?
Yes.
Trustee Egan? Trustee Finnerty?
Yes?
Trustee Wilbeck?
Trustee Wheelback, yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Velarde?
Yes.
It is 6 p.m. The meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, I get, I'll put them in the box.
It's good, I like it, old school.
I have a question. Why do we move stuff to consent?
I'm sorry?
and not vote on it?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, why don't you,
And then we vote yes.
yeah.